All right, it is June 13th. Time for my third JKD class. Honestly, didn't practice as much as I should have this week, so hopefully I'm not too rusty. Didn't forget all the stuff from the last 2 weeks. I'm still not relaxing enough.
打在我身上，我手这样子卡在他腿上，我用力摆。3、4、5。
Good mix of some stuff we've done in some previous classes, plus some new stuff, including kicks. Hadn't done kicks yet. I really like kicks, so that was good. Started off, the weight class seems to pretty much always start off. We did our warm-ups, and then we did some like kicking line drills, which we seem to do in every class. Then we did some shoulder tag. I love shoulder tag. It's like sparring, but instead of trying to hit the other person, you're trying to tag them on the shoulder or on the knee. I've got no real reason for liking it. It's just kind of fun. As for the stuff we did, in no particular order, this week we did a jab, and then the cross, and then 2 body shots. I actually had a little bit of trouble with it, with my foot placement, I guess. I would do the first jab and then the cross, and then I could throw that first body shot okay, but then I was too far away from the other side of the body. I thought at first that I was probably supposed to step, so I was supposed to do the first 3 techniques and then sort of step to the side to throw that 4th one. I asked though, pretty sure the instructor said no, and when he demonstrated it, his feet didn't move. He sort of shifted to the other foot and then threw the second body shot. The problem might have been that I was sort of moving to the side a little bit on my jab cross, and instead of coming straight in, I was sort of going off to the side a little bit, so I could throw that first body shot really well, but I was too far away for that second one. So maybe the solution is to go sort of straighter on. The other solution, I guess, is just to move anyway. I realize that might not be how it was taught in the class, but Bruce Lee didn't believe in styles, right? Bruce Lee was supposedly all about like figuring out what worked for you, and those opinions really resonate with me. I like looking at things that work for me and sort of adapting them to myself. So I think that if I was doing it, I would probably have that slide in there. Then after practicing that drill with a partner a couple times, one person would go in, jab, cross, body shot, the other person would block the jab, cross, and then cover the body for the body shots. We started adding a counter, throw some hook punches to the head after blocking the body shots. So the initial attacker had to throw those first 4 punches and then guard against the hook punches. I really liked that addition to the drill. It made it less active, passive, I guess. We also did some kicks finally. We were doing roundhouse kicks. Started out slow, then did them faster, more power, less power, mixing stuff up like that. There were 2 things, however, that were a little strange for me. The first was the pad. We were holding the pad on the front of the arm, so when you got hit, your arm went out this way. I've been told in the past that you shouldn't do that, especially for kicks, because if the other person is really strong or you're just not paying attention, your arm, you could hurt your shoulder. So your arm only goes back this far, and if they hit you too hard and your arm tries to go farther back, you might hurt your shoulder. But if you put the pad on your back of your arm can only go so far because your body is in the way. So even if the other person hits it really hard, it's going to hit your body and then stop. The second thing was the amount of chambering that we did of the kick. So back home, I'm used to chambering roundhouse kicks all the way back so that the knee is pointed wherever you are kicking. And leg is going to be, my foot's going to be pulled like all the way back to my butt, or as close to my butt as I can get it. We did it different in class though. That's the way I was doing it because it's the way I've always done it, but I was told not to do it that way. And then what I was showed was a less chambered kick, I guess is the best way to explain it. The way that we were doing it in class was just sort of bringing it up. So the knee is no longer pointing straight forward, the foot is no longer pulled back, so then the kick, instead of chambering and kicking, was now sort of just kind of coming up and kicking. I actually didn't hate it. It seems to make the kick a little bit faster. The other big thing that we did was a side kick drill. This was the first time I think that I've done side kicks in JKD class. We did it just with a pad, hold the pad out, do the kick. Then we did it as a drill, and that was where there was something that was very different from what I'm used to. Probably the most different thing that I've done so far in JKD. Just started raining. All right, I guess I will finish in the apartment. So the attacker was just coming in with a side kick, low either to the leg or the side. The defender was gonna knock the kick away while also shuffling back. This leg comes back and then comes back forward, and you do a kick as sort of a counter. So that first kick comes in and you block it and jump out of the way and then come back and kick. The reasoning behind it, I guess, is that it's quicker. If you shuffle, then you have to do 4 total movements. 1, this leg coming in, 2, this leg going out, and 3, this leg coming in, and 4, this leg coming up to kick. But if you do that sort of shuffle, it's fewer movements. It's 1 as this leg comes back, and then 2 as it comes in. Doing fewer movements like that should make it faster. Personally, I don't like it much. The theory is sound, but I feel like the trade-off isn't great. If you're shuffling back and then shuffling in, you're still sort of grounded the whole time, but that sort of jumpy back thing, I feel like takes you a little too off balance. I feel like if you swing back into it and then the opponent responds, you can't really respond. Like if they do a second kick, or if they throw in a first kick, if they throw a first side kick and then blitz you or something, you can't really respond because you're sort of off balance with one leg up in the air. Like I said at the beginning, all in all, pretty good class. Probably the class where I had the most stuff that was foreign to me. Another pretty good class. This one, just like the previous one, was kind of kick heavy. After all our warm-ups and stuff, we did a whole bunch of bag work. So this class, there were only 2 people, me and 1 other guy. So the way the drill was structured, I think you could see it in the video, was the bag, which is sort of in the corner, and then we're on like two sides of the bag. And one person would do the combo or the move, and then the other person would. I really liked that setup, honestly. By having 2 people on the bag, you have to wait while the other person does their combo. So there's like a couple seconds of built-in rest time. Since there's a couple seconds of built-in rest time, you're not going to go too fast right off the bat and just gas yourself. We did a bunch of combos. We did jab, cross, round. We did that backwards. Round, jab, cross. We did round, cross, and then 2 hooks to 2 different heights. And we did front, round with different heights and legs of roundhouse kicks. Then one of the last things we did was a pad drill with side kicks, which was similar to a pad drill that I think we did in the previous class with roundhouse kicks. And you hold up a pad, they kick it, then they hold up the pad and you kick it. Just like with the roundhouse kicks, I noticed things that were a little different with the side kicks and the front kicks to what I'm used to. Some of it was interesting, I liked. Some of it I liked less. The side kicks, just like the roundhouse kicks, don't have as full of a chamber, I guess, as I'm used to doing back home when I do tung sudo. So the side kick chamber that I'm used to, the leg comes up, and then you sort of point your butt at the target and pull your leg all the way back with your foot pointing at wherever you're going to kick. But the side kick chamber for JKD that we did was a little farther out from the body. So instead of being pulled all the way back, it was a little farther out. If you're covering distance, the step was also different. I'm used to stepping behind before throwing the kick back home in Tung Sudo, but the step was more often in front in JKD. I actually asked about that at the end of class, so I asked behind, in front, or to the leg. I'm pretty sure I understood the answer, although I could have been way off base since my Chinese is kind of... But I'm pretty sure what I was told was that the step in front or behind is if you need to cover more distance to your target, and the step just to the kicking leg is if they're closer, so you don't need to cover as much distance, which I guess makes sense. He also showed like a skip if you need to cover a lot of distance. I think that the difference in stepping front versus back in JKD versus Tung Sudo back home has to do with the stance that you're fighting from. So a Tung Sudo stance, your legs are sort of even with each other. So from this stance, it's easy to step behind your kicking leg. And when you step behind your kicking leg, you're almost naturally pointing your butt at your target, which means you can do that sort of full chamber. But the JKD stance is not as even. The back leg is a little more forward than the front leg. So from this position, it makes more sense for that back leg to step in front. Since you're in front of that kicking leg, it doesn't make sense to do that full chamber. You'd have to bring this back leg all the way around to do that kick, but your front leg is not getting in the way of the chamber just sort of coming up. Another side kick difference was where you're hitting. The side kick in Tung Sudo is sort of heel. So if you see my toes are pulled back a little bit and sort of hitting with the heel. But in the JKD kick, if I understood correctly, your foot is flatter and you're hitting with the bottom of the foot. I had a lot of trouble with that, with changing how I was doing the kick. I think the reason for it, though, is the target. So maybe when we're doing it in Tung Sudo, we're assuming that the target is the stomach or the chest. Those are both sort of wide targets. Since the target is kind of wide, we can use just the heel to kick because we have a big area that we can hit. But the JKD is assuming you're going to be hitting the side. So you're either going to be hitting the side of the person or the side of their leg, which is a much smaller target than the front of the body. So since the target is smaller, you want more surface area on the weapon. If you try to use the heel to kick the side of the body, there's a higher chance that you'll miss because the side of the body is small and the heel is also small. But if you're using the bottom of the foot, which is a little bit bigger, you have a better chance of hitting, which isn't a problem when you're hitting to the front of the body because it's a much bigger target. I liked the differences in the front kick less. So I usually kick heel or bottom of the foot, so my foot's pretty flat. But we were kicking ball of the foot. I suppose that kicking with the ball of the foot gives you a little bit more distance because your foot's going to be a little farther out, so you can kick something that's a little bit farther away. But I feel like maybe you're sacrificing power for it. Maybe it's just that I've been kicking one way for too long and have trouble transitioning in this case. Lots of differences, which is sort of what I'm doing this for, right? If I didn't want to experience anything different, I could have just stayed home. I feel like the whole point of doing new martial arts is to sort of see how other people do things. But this one a little more focused on hand techniques, unlike the last two classes, which were sort of focused on kicking. Normal start, some warm-ups, some stretches, some kicking line drills, but the stretches super intense. Instead of sort of light stretching, we did some more deeper stretching, a little more intense than what we normally do. Definitely feeling my age when we're doing those. After we finished with all the intro stuff from class, we did a lot of pad work and a lot of sparring in this class. This class was all about pad work and sparring. Some of the combos we did were jab, cross, front hook, jab, cross, front hook, back hook, cross, front hook, cross, front hook, cross, front hook. Sort of turtle up and protect the head, and then throw some hooks from there. Jab low, and then cross, and then hooks. That same combo, but fake the jab, fake the jab so that they go to block it, and then come up with the cross and the hooks. A similar one, fake that low jab, and then bring that hand up into a back fist, and then some with counters. So as the other person throws the jab, you sort of come back and block the jab, and then you throw your own jab. And the other one is the jab comes in, sort of shuffle and block with that front hand, just sort of push it out of the way, and then throw a back fist with that same hand. A lot of good combos there. I'm not a particularly strong boxer. I tend to fight a little bit farther away, and then sort of blitz in with with a couple hand combos and maybe a kick, and then retreat again back out of my opponent's range. Boxing is definitely not my strong suit, standing there with different techniques and good head movement and stuff. So a class like this was super good for me because that's the kind of thing that I need to practice the most. One big thing that I noticed though, and I'm really not sure how I feel about it, is mouthpiece use. I feel like back home, whenever you do any kind of sparring, everyone has to wear a mouthpiece. It's mandatory. But here it's not mandatory, either because they let everyone decide if they want to wear a mouthpiece, or because they only make it mandatory if you're sparring like full power, full speed, like if you're in a competition or something. No one's ever stopped me from putting one in whenever we do sort of sparring like that. I always put my mouthpiece in. No one's been like, no, take that out, you can't wear that. So there's no reason you can't wear one, but everyone isn't being told to wear one. Everyone isn't being forced to wear one. Whereas back home, I feel like even if you're sparring at lower power, lower speed, everyone still has to wear a mouthpiece. I suppose as long as I put my mouthpiece in, it doesn't really affect me, but I'm going to feel really bad if I miss my punch and accidentally clock someone right in the mouth and they have to go to the dentist because they weren't wearing a mouthpiece. Maybe back home, we're just too soft. What about you guys, where you train, whatever country you're in, whatever art you're in? Do you wear a mouthpiece anytime that you're doing any kind of sparring? Even low power, low speed sparring, or are mouth guards reserved for more competition stuff at higher power and higher speeds? I'd be interested in seeing what everyone else is like, because that was something that I just sort of thought was the same across the board anywhere, and was quite surprised to see being different. Overall though, that was definitely one of my favorite classes so far because of the big focus on boxing and sparring and pad work, stuff that I'm really not good at and really need to practice a lot of. Just started raining. Not enough to be like actual rain, but enough that I can't stand out there with my camera, so that's inconvenient.